Hello, and welcome to my channel where we talk about tips and tricks for teaching elementary music. Okay, here's today's video. So for today's video, I want to talk to you about tips for teaching an elementary choir or elementary chorus, however it might be called in your school. I teach kindergarten through fourth grade general music, and then I have a fifth grade class that comes to me as a choir. They come twice a week. Everybody else comes once a week. So I have them twice a week for 45 minutes. And they are structured as that beginning ensemble where we do warm-ups, where we do technique, where we're working on vocal placement, where we're learning different repertoire, where we're performing in every program in the building. So I'm going to break some of these things down for you. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is how to choose music for your chorus class. That needs to happen before the first class even occurs. But first, let's look at some examples of music that I threw together on this notation software here. All right, so here's what this first example sounds like. This first example has an octave jump and some nice skips here, right? Some skips and leaps again. But it's not super fast. It doesn't seem like it would be a very challenging thing as far as rhythm is concerned. Might be a little challenging with the jumps for the students to do it vocally, but it's something that they could learn. And the technique that you would be working on for this, the main technique would be getting into that head voice. So you've got that middle C to the next C up placement right there to kind of encourage that head voice placement. And a great tip for getting your students into head voice is have them stand up and have them do a little bend down when they go for the higher note. La, la. So you just do a little dip with your legs as they're going into that top one. It just gives them that sense of not going, ugh, right? Of course, they'd be standing while this happens, not doing it in their chair. Because doing in their chair is going to mess up their singer's posture, their breathing technique, which I'll get to a little bit later. So just as you're choosing your music, be thinking about the different vocal techniques that you want them to learn from the music. So there's going to be two different ways you're going to choose your music. You're going to choose it for technique, what they can learn, and you're also going to choose it for usability in, say, a program. Okay? But here it's clearly about technique. Could also be for a program. You just don't know. So this example right here would be a good one because you're challenging their rhythm ability and you're challenging their vocal agility, and you could also be challenging their diction. If, for example, on these 16th notes, if it was like, I don't know, something like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, if they had to say a different syllable with each one of these 16th notes, it would challenge their diction ability. So let's just listen to this one. All right, so this example right here is a kind of fake ABA example. It's like I did phrase 1, and then there's a second phrase that's different, and then phrase 3 is the same as phrase 1. So you can just kind of see like how it flows together. I also want you to know that it's pretty easy intervals, and the rhythm is not difficult at all. And even if there were a lot of words, say, on these 8 eighth notes right here, a lot of different syllables they had to say, I think it'd be easy enough for them to figure out how to do. So this would be maybe an easier song to sing than, say, this one with the rhythms on it, or this one with the vocal placement. So this might even be a good song to start out with. So here we go. So that gives you an idea of how to choose songs for your chorus class. I actually have a whole video out on how to choose songs for all of your music classes, but in this case, I think it gives you a good idea. You're looking for songs that can help you teach different techniques, such as vocal placement, such as head voice, such as breath control, diction, rhythmic reading, legato, staccato, all these different techniques that you're trying to teach them. That's what you're looking for when you're choosing music for chorus. And also you want it to be fun for them too, okay? So you don't want to pick out stuff that is constantly something that, say, a fifth grader would find very boring or too challenging. So you need to find the middle ground there. You want to challenge them, but you also want to keep them engaged as well. Okay. Moving on to the next thing. So let's talk about vocal warm-ups and the range for an elementary student. So here we go. So if you look up here, you've got a typical warm-up, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you move up by half steps. So just in case you're not familiar with this, here you go. And then the next thing would be C sharp, D. You see how it goes? We go up by half steps. This I would always start in the key of C, and I would take it up until the highest note the students are singing is an E on that fifth. So that would be, the do would be on the A in order to have that fifth be an E. Okay? Now, you can do this. You can have them go do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, re, mi, fa, so, fa, mi, re, do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But what my students like is, and they are still elementary students, so it's okay if you have a little fun with it, be a little silly with it. I always have them tell me something like that they like to eat. I like eating pizza, yes I do. I like eating pizza, yes I do, right? And then this one, so we do that all the way up until we get to the key of A major, so that we have that E as our fifth. And then I will come back down and I will start on the G, the fifth of C, and I will play this. And I will have a student tell me something they don't like to eat. But I don't like Brussels sprouts, whatever it is. And for this one, we're going to go down by half steps until I get that tonic to be around A or G, just about where I feel like they're still kind of with me and I haven't lost all of them yet. Because really, you only want to have your students have about this range right here. Some of your students do not have that range. Some of your students, the high note is very difficult for them. Some of them, the low note is very difficult for them. Some of them have a much smaller range if they haven't been really singing most of their life, or have only been singing along with stuff on the radio, pop music that is just very like a fifth or a sixth apart most of the time. But this is, you never really want to take them any further than this either way. So for this activity right here, listen to this. So basically, I don't pitch this, but I have them do something called sirens. And I have them approach it. I tell them, you are a football player on your favorite football team, a quarterback, and go ahead and put that football in your hand. Throw that ball as high and as far as you can throw it. And so they aren't all going to be on the same pitch. Okay. So, but it's just like, wee, wee, however high and far, and bring it down as low as they can. And it could be that some of them will be up there. Some of them might even go further up, but some of them may only get to say C or D and may not take it down as low. But that's kind of what you're aiming for. So those are basically the warm-ups I do in my classroom. Takes maybe 2-3 minutes. And then I will start out on a relatively easy song first, one that I'm not having them do big octaves. One that's kind of a middle of the road placement, not very difficult, just to get us into singing as a group. So when it comes to singer's posture, I actually have a poster in my classroom that shows a girl sitting up in a chair, and you can clearly see her back is separated from the chair, that there's space and her back is straight. So of course that's up there, plus I will demonstrate myself by taking a chair and having them see how I sit. But you do need to let them know that they need to have their feet flat on the floor, that they need to scoot themselves forward, get their back as straight as they can, and that will be their singer's posture. While you're learning that, it's okay to have them stand up when they sing. It's okay to have them relax when you're not singing. It's okay to remind them singer's posture and remind them what it is. You are going to have to remind them multiple times what singer's posture is. It's not a position that comes naturally to them. So you will have to remind them from time to time what it is. But have them stand up when they sing if you want to do that. I go back and forth. It just depends. Standing up all the time can be problematic unless you set your classroom up in a way that everybody can see you at all times. So here is a lesson plan that I wrote last year for my first week of chorus class. And I want to show you just some of the things that are on it. I am sure that your district has a lesson plan format that you're supposed to be using, whether it's music specific or whether it's one your whole district uses across the board. But this will just give you an idea. So we have, of course, the EQ and all of the objectives. These are from the state of Virginia because that is where I teach. So on my materials, here is where my repertoire hangs out. So you can see that these are the 4 songs that I'm starting off with. Will we learn everything about these 4 songs in the first week of school? Absolutely not, because I'm using them for different reasons to teach different techniques. For example, this one right here called Bundle Buggy Boogie Woogie, I believe is the full name of it, is a spoken speech piece. So it is not about pitch placement at all. It is about diction and rhythmic accuracy. 2A is from Africa, and it's in a language from Africa. I'm not sure which one off the top of my head, which language, but you learn it. It's a very simple song, and then you sing it in a round. So that's helping the students to learn how to sing independently from each other and carry that part while a different part is going on at the same time. Plus, they're learning to sing in a foreign language, which is also something that I try to get them to do in more than one song throughout the school year. Then you've got The Lion Sleeps Tonight. This is a song I also teach in 4th grade. So I use this song with 5th grade chorus because it's something that's a little familiar to them. And it's a really good just unison song that's in a really good vocal placement that they can just really kind of get into, and we can work on intonation, we can work on blending, we can work on listening to each other, and we can even work on a little bit of choreography with this as well. And then Route 66 is a song that has a really good part in it in kind of the middle where you kind of hang out at C and B on the top part of the treble staff, and it forces you to get into your head voice and hang out in your head voice for a while. So that's why I like that one. So then you can see that this is the very first class. So you can see that we are discussing rules and expectations. Then I talk about singer's posture and breath control. And then I do my warm-ups on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ascending, and then a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 descending. And that's where I do what I was talking about earlier with I love eating pizza, yes I do, but I don't like Brussels sprouts, or whatever the kids want to add. And let's get into the reason for the individual song. So as I told you already, 2A is in a foreign language, so that's why it's practice pronunciation. We're also practicing intonation because of the fact that it is very easily placed and we are singing a round. And then bundle, buggy, boogie, woogie, we're practicing enunciation and rhythmic reading, root, intonation and getting into head voice, lion, intonation, head voice, and basic choreography. And then I threw this in here as just an added little fun thing for them to do after the first week of doing chorus class. So not absolutely necessary, it was just a fun thing for them to do. It's also a good thing to do with your chorus students is solfege. Even if you don't use it for your K through 4 classes, some teachers use solfege, some don't. But solfege is really good for a chorus class because it really helps them to learn how to sight read, and it helps them to learn how to have a good ear for ear training. Okay, so as they're going through, and this is not something that I do the first few weeks of school. I work this in a little bit later. I'm just trying to get my sound kind of established a little bit, and then I start bringing solfege in. But you could certainly bring it in the first day, especially if you're just going to hang out on So Me at the beginning. And eventually you could take your solfege information and turn it into an ear training quiz, but you would want to practice this first, okay? So like put 2 patterns side by side like you see on this screen and play them and see if they could say it's A or it's 1 or it's 2. Which one is it out of these 2 in example number 1, okay? So once you felt like your students had a little bit better handle on it, then you could give it to them as a quiz. We'll get more into how I assess my students in a bit. I feel that it's really important for students to have their own notated paper music so that they can write notes on it. If you're doing songs that are in a foreign language, they can write down little tricks to help them remember how to say those words. If you're doing things where you want them to know where the first and second ending is, where the repeat signs are, where the dies al coda is, where the fine is, all of those little things that our printed music gives to us, then it really helps them to be able to circle it, to be able to write themselves little notes like turn back to page 1, turn back to page 3, all of those sorts of things. So that's why it's really helpful for them to have their own music and to put it in a folder with their name on it. Now the folder can be a folder that you reuse. If it's like a sturdy cardboard type folder and you put like a piece of tape on it and just change the names out as you want to year after year, or if it's a thin paper folder that only that student's going to be using, but it has their name on it, all of their stuff is in there. If you give them a worksheet and it gets graded, it gets put back in there. If you give them information sheets, like this is what all the dynamic symbols mean, say for example, that can hang out in there, and so on. So folders, individual folders are just a really good idea. And I always have my students pass the folders out. So just however you want to do it, I usually just take the folder box and put it on somebody's chair and ask them to pass it out that day, and they can have a friend help them if they want to. So my students know once they get their folders, they need to look at the board, the smart board in my classroom, because I have written down their repertoire in the order that we're going to be doing it in. So they know to go ahead and get that music out in that order so that once I'm done with song 1, boom, we're ready to go to song 2. And I'm not waiting for everybody to find that piece of music and get going, that we're just ready to go on. So let's talk about programs. You really want to have your chorus be in every program if possible, so that they get that experience of being that performing ensemble. If you are in a district where you are fortunate enough to have an extra music option in 5th grade, say orchestra or band, that is amazing. But those teachers, although they will have their students perform, they have to have their students perform at least once, will not be able to have their students ready to perform at that very first program, more than likely, because beginning orchestra and band are starting from scratch. Beginning chorus is much easier. These students have been singing since they were children. Maybe they don't have great technique, maybe they aren't singing in tune, but it is much easier to teach a group of students a song and put them in a program than it is to teach them an instrumental piece on an instrument they've never even held before. So just keep that in mind, that you really want to have your chorus performing in all your programs if that is logistically possible, and that they are going to be getting really used to being a performing group that way. So my chorus uses risers, and the way I set this up, and I'm talking specifically for programs. In the classroom, it's just a regular classroom setting. But in a program, we set up risers in front of the stage so it's on ground level, and the chorus comes in and they usually sing the first song or the second song. It just depends on how I structured my program. But let's say they sing the first song on the risers, they're standing up, the curtains are closed behind them. Meanwhile, there's a group getting on the stage behind them to play an instrument or to dance. They're getting behind them, behind the curtain, getting ready. So the chorus is done with their song. The chorus does not leave the risers. It's just too much work logistically if you have a chorus of 40 plus kids, because students don't always pay attention, they don't always move fast, plus it just eats up time. So what I have my students do is they just sang a song, they were standing up on the risers, now they sit down on the risers. And the curtain opens and a performance happens there, then the curtain closes and the chorus stands back up and they sing their next song. So we go back and forth that way until the finale, and during the finale everybody moves. I have different students come to the risers and the chorus goes up in the center of the stage area to do the finale. So because of the fact that they're going to be on risers, you can't have straight up choreography like you're thinking, like a lot of footwork and a lot of turning around and moving from place to place. You have to do things like riserography. You don't have to have any of that. You could have your students absolutely just stand still and sing, that would be fine. So your riserography becomes hand motions basically, or even nodding can be a riserography motion, you know, nodding this way or turning this way and looking and then turning this way and looking, and just make it fit your music so that it looks like, oh, not only are they singing, but they added a little something extra to that song and it kind of made it more special and they were all moving as a group. So you do have to practice that beforehand. If I'm going to have riserography in a song, I will have my students completely memorize the singing part first, and then we will add the choreography into that. So they don't have to hold anything in their hands or be looking anywhere for words, and then we just add the choreography on top of that. And that leads me into conducting. So when it comes to conducting, you're just going to have to go with what your gut is telling you on this. I will say that when I'm conducting kindergarten through 4th grade, I am not doing a traditional pattern with them, okay? Unless I'm doing the finale number of a program, I will do a traditional pattern on that. But with kindergarten through 4th grade, if they're playing an instrument, I'm doing the instrument part. Triangle, 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 maraca, 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 maraca. That's how I'm conducting, so they know what to play and when to play it. If they're doing a dance thing, I'm doing things like, I'm whispering it so the audience doesn't hear me, rolling, you know, that sort of thing, but I'm doing it from my chair so that they know what to do choreography wise. So when it comes to 5th grade chorus, I do try to do more traditional conducting. But if we're going to do a riserography song, like I was saying earlier, I might sit there and do the choreography with them just to let them know where it was coming. You just have to kind of take that thought process through. What way do I want to conduct my students? And in some cases, like if that song didn't require any movement until say the B section, so maybe I'm sitting here going like this with the A section and pointing at part 1 and part 2 and, you know, mouthing the words, and then maybe I'm going get ready, right? So you certainly can go back and forth with that. It doesn't have to be perfect like you were in college. It doesn't have to be perfect like you would be like in a middle or high school concert setting where you're looking for this perfection in the conducting department. Whatever works to get the message across to your students so they know what to do and when to do it is what works best. So while we're on the subject of programs, I have my students wear white tops. I have no preference on what it is, except our school does have a rule that they cannot be spaghetti straps. That's actually a district-wide rule. So I do pass that information along. And then a black bottom. When it comes to assessment, I do 3 assessments for my students. One of which is very time consuming. Another one is a little less time consuming. And then the last one is really super easy. So this is the most time consuming one that you can see right here. This is an actual singing test. So if I were giving this assessment, we would have sung a song for a good, say, 3 weeks or so and gotten really comfortable with it. And I will pick what I think is kind of a challenging part of the song, maybe a whole section, like maybe the whole B section, let's say, or maybe it's just like a 3 or 4 measure part. But I will choose the challenging part of the song and I will call the students up in about 3 or 4 people per group, and they can bring their music up with them, and I will play the accompaniment track to the music on the iPod, and they will sing the part of the song that they need to sing for a grade. And you can see the different components that I have here of what I'm actually looking for. So the other way that I assess them is a plus, check, or minus system, and it's done with a 2 columns. It's a preparation and participation. I don't happen to have a copy of that right here to show you, but the preparation is your music all in order? Are you ready to go? So that goes back to them looking at the smartboard to see what the repertoire order is for the day and getting that ready. The second part is participation. Are you actually singing? And I just kind of do a scan around the room, a few students at a time while we're going through music on a given day, and give them their checks plus minuses, whatever it is for that. The easiest assessment is actually the performance assessment. So on the night of our performance, the 5th graders are staying, my chorus students are staying with the 5th grade teachers in a holding room. And the 5th grade teachers are given the line order because they're going to line the students up to bring the students in for their performance. And they will do check or minus whether or not the student is here. They check off all the students that are here. And if they show up to a program, they automatically get an A because they came out after school and they're up there performing. I don't have the time. I don't think any director really has the time during an actual performance to stare at each student and say, are they actually singing that song? Let me listen. Did they sing the note right? Let me see their mouth. Is it moving with the right words? You don't have the time to do that as a director. There's too many things going on in a performance. So for me, if they show up, they get an A. If they don't show up, the next music class, they get a chance to do a makeup attempt, which is I will go through the list of students. Let's say there's 5 that didn't show up, and I will call their names out, and they have to stand up in front of the class and sing 2 songs from the program. They could choose the 2 songs they want to sing, and they don't have to sing them as a soloist. They can sing them with these other people that missed. If nobody else wants to sing that particular song, but one of them does, they can get somebody who was at the concert to come up and sing with them. They do not have to do it as a soloist. Okay, that's all I have to say about teaching beginning chorus. I hope that you learned some things from this video, and I hope that you'll remember to subscribe. Have a wonderful day.